Good morning. Welcome to your early morning intuitive guidance for this fine Wednesday. I'm Dr. Bonnie Nussbaum here with some wisdom to share, and we have a fun little cheeky card for today, so looking forward to sharing that with all of you. So we'll give it a minute, waiting for people to pop on. And what are you up to this Wednesday? What are you doing on this fine day? A little early probably for most of you to have your whole plan. Good morning, Ruth Ann. Glad you are here. Welcome, welcome. You're the first one on today. And looks like a couple others are popping on. There's Lucy. Good morning. Welcome. Good morning, Abigail. The whole tribe popping in here. This is awesome. Thank you for all the sunshines and sunrises. It is still pitch black out there here. So my sister's here, and she just hauled her 3 dogs out for a walk. So they're cruising through the darkness. Good morning, Carolyn. Welcome. Glad you are here. I'm going to take a quick drink. I'm dry from last night. So we have the Oracle of E deck for today. Pam Grout and Colette Barron-Reed. And again, these cards are just kind of cheeky. They're sort of fun. Good morning, Cindy. Good morning, good morning. But they give you grist for the mill in terms of thoughts. So this card in particular, I think, is kind of a cool one for this point in time. So on how'd y'all fare yesterday on breathing deeply and allowing and where am I looking? There it is. Being your own Sherpa. Being your own Sherpa. Steady, sure-footed, solid. How'd you do on that? If you want to put some comments in the feed, that would be awesome. But let's take some nice deep breaths in through the nose. Out through the mouth. Settling in. Thank you for the rainbows and hearts. In through the nose. Out through the mouth. Good morning, Gwen. Glad you're here. Awesome, awesome. Everybody, all the Practical Rebels popping in. And I actually relocated my Practical Rebel note up a little bit on the edge of my computer monitor, and I added the words relentless incrementalism. Relentless incrementalism. That is a phrase that I learned from the community organizers that I'm taking a course from, and the basic gist of it is when you're negotiating on something, you take what you can get, and then you keep working for more. So pretty interesting group of folks, I would say. So back to our card, the Oracle of E, Pam Grout, Colette Barron-Reed. And our card for today is Psst, Ahem, Hey You. Should we see what that's about? Psst, Ahem, Hey You. We'd like to interrupt this Oracle deck with a very important announcement. There is nothing to fear. There is nothing to fear. Every single thing that looks ominous is but an illusion. It has no power. Zip, nada, zilch. It's time to look your fears straight in the eye and call them out for the insignificant posers they really are. So a couple things popped into my head with this one. Good morning, Beth. Glad you are here. One was Diane and I have been going to see the Harry Potter movies. And in the earlier movies, they had this concept of a boggart. And a boggart was basically a shapeshifter that would turn into whatever was your greatest fear and come at you. So for Ron, it was spiders. For Harry, it was not the Death Eaters, the things that float around. I can't remember the name of them. Anyway, brain fart. Whatever you most feared is what manifested. And then you had the opportunity to practice dealing with it. So the fear stuff is salient for you right now. That's fabulous. Let's address it. Let's address it. So I'll share one of mine because I had an opportunity yesterday. I've always been afraid of getting stung by a bee. I don't know why, just always been afraid of it. Yesterday, I got stung by a bee for the first time in my life. 62 years, lots of mosquito bites, all that other stuff. Never had gotten stung by a bee. Yesterday, stung by a bee. Didn't even swell up very much. Put ice on it, and it was like, well, that wasn't that big a hairy deal. For me, I'm not the person who reacts with anaphylaxis, so fabulous, right? So it was a little tender, not much swelling because I slapped ice on it right away, but it was like, okay, no longer need to fear that one. Experienced it and it wasn't a big hairy deal for me. For other people, yes, I get it. What about for you? What are the things you fear? Oh, God, here's another one, Carolyn, too. Perfect for you right now. Glad. So, what are the things that you fear? And interestingly, good morning, Joe Bell. Glad you are here. I'll show you our card quick, and I'm probably going to read the words again in the little book. But what are the things that you are most afraid of? What are the things that you are most afraid of? Throw some things in the V, okay? There are all those people who have the fear of public speaking. I used to be that person. In high school, I was the person who clutched the podium when I had to talk and danced back and forth and was terrified, sweating like crazy, whatever. Now I do this. Fear can be overcome. I don't care what the fear is. It can be overcome. Again, going back to some of our previous readings, you have within you everything you need to overcome your obstacles. Again, I love the Tosha Silver deck that has Ganesh on the back, the overcomer of obstacles. So whenever you're afraid, maybe you think of a pink elephant. Ganesh, overcoming obstacles, helping us do that. Finding ways to, terrified of birds in close quarters, not a fan of speaking in front of groups. Gotcha, Gwen. All right. And the bird thing. Good morning, Holly. Glad you are here. Haven't seen you in a while. That's awesome. Fear of death. Gotcha. Yep. And again, with all of these, forgetting what I want to say. Okay, yep. Many of these, there are those things we're afraid of that are actually potential physical dangers. We often vastly overrate the likelihood of those dangers. So let's say you're afraid of your plane crashing, all right? That is an actual thing that can happen, and it is something that can kill you. However, what's the likelihood that your plane's going to crash? Teeny. You're far more likely to have a car accident than you are to crash in a plane. But again, it's not that conscious part of our brain. It's not our cortex that's fearing all this stuff. It's the base of the brain. It's the limbic system. It's the amygdala. It's all the emotional parts of us that get engaged in this fear stuff, right? And interestingly, research is now showing that fear can be passed down generationally. Understood, Carolyn. Understood. Having medical tests done. Yes. Fears can be passed down genetically. So if someone had an experience with a specific thing that created a fear response, it can create changes genetically that then can get passed down to future generations. That maybe has some survival value historically, but when you end up with fears that you didn't even create for yourself, isn't that interesting? Fear of being alone, fear of things going wrong. Gotcha. I have one person who has a fear of her kids getting sick, and it is a major fear. It's attached to something else from her past, but it's a major fear that really has complicated things. Time to do work on this stuff, right? Time to, almost like deflating a balloon, okay? And when we can face our fears, like the card says, look your fears straight in the eye and call them out as the insignificant posers they really are. Good morning, Charlene. Glad you are here. I like to think of it as like a balloon deflating. It's not at this peak place of tension that if you poke up with a pin, it goes, when it's deflated, it has very little oomph, right? So how do we deflate these things? One is by exposing ourselves to them. A little at a time. I had someone who I worked with for quite some time on a fear of snakes. And I mean, it was dramatic. If she opened a book and there was a picture of a snake in there, she dropped the book. So working with that over time, some exposure stuff, remaining calm in the presence of that thing. So I'm just going to pick one here. Let's say it's the fear of needles. A lot of people don't like getting their blood drawn, etc. So first thing I would do is create the relaxation response. You need the response first so that you have the tool to work with. So you all have fabulous relaxation responses. You breathe deeply, you can close your eyes, you just kind of move yourself into that state of relaxation. Your goal is to maintain that state of relaxation, no matter what, no matter where you are, etc. Conscious effort can be helpful. So with the fear of needles, it might be just thinking then about needles. And when the response comes up, go back to the relaxation response. You counter it with the relaxation response over and over and over again. Then you might be, you sit a needle close by. You look at one in a book, or you find a video of someone getting a shot. Slowly build up your tolerance for that particular thing. And you might be saying, well, Bonnie, that's going to take a long time. You have other tools you can use. Use tapping. Use the tapping. Allow, again, it to create that relaxation response such that you're less likely. Put yourself in circumstances where that particular thing will be. Most of us avoid that, right? So if I have a fear of needles, I may not be making my appointments the way I ought to. If I have a fear of public speaking, I'm not the one who's going to be signing up to be up there talking about something. And I will avoid opportunities. So in, like if you're in a small team and the small teams are going to report back to the big group, you're not likely to be the one who's going to raise your hand and say, I'll give our report. You just tend to avoid the stuff that you don't want to deal with. And we're really sneaky. We're really sneaky. So again, we may be doing avoidance stuff that we've justified in ways that make it seem like it's okay, or we do avoidance stuff that we're not even aware we're doing until someone else points it out to us. Like the little girl who we were walking her home as teenagers, and she says, aren't you going to cross the street? Because there was a man coming toward us. We hadn't even really put two and two together that we tended to avoid walking past men. She, at 3, had already figured it out, that that's what we did. So, here's the card again. Hold it up. Psst, I am. Hey, you. We'd like to interrupt this oracle deck with a very important announcement. There is nothing to fear. There's nothing to fear. Every single thing that looks ominous is but an illusion. It has no power. Zip, nada, zilch. It's time to look your fears straight in the eye and call them out as the insignificant posers they really are. So I want to give you another circumstance where there was, for me, a pretty tremendous fear response. When I was going through my coaching program eons ago, we were given the opportunity to talk about something that wasn't going to be well received by others, okay? So it was to get us practice at doing so. If you're going to be putting yourself out there, sometimes there's going to be hecklers. Sometimes there's going to be people who are impacted negatively by what it is that you're putting forward, and they're going to rebel. Sometimes it just doesn't go over well, right? Well, in this particular coaching program, we also did a lot of work on past life stuff. And if you believe it, great. If you don't believe it, that's fine too. But one of the lifetimes that I tapped into was being a healer and being beheaded because of it. The male powers that be did not appreciate women practicing healing arts. So, lost my head. And periodically, I would, in this lifetime, have nightmares about that. One of them was when I was at the motel, and the image was of the villagers gathering outside the motel, calling for me to come out, to be beheaded, basically. And for whatever reason, I walked out there and was beheaded, and the man who beheaded me hauled off my head. And so the rest of me's laying there, and this little boy came over to me. This is a dream. Little boy came over to me and was talking to me about how sorry he was that I had lost my head, blah, blah, blah. And I remember it was almost lucid, the dream, because I remember thinking, how am I hearing what he's saying when they just walked off with my ears? Strange dream, but it left an impression in terms of the town where I was living at the time is straight out of the 50s. They are not progressive, straight out of the 50s. So a lot of the people, including myself, who moved into that area and were more progressive, were not well received. So we were at I believe we were in Chicago. Might have been one of the trips to Florida. I don't know. Anyway, whole room of us in the coaching program working on our stuff, and the leader noticed this fear response in me and came over and wanted to know what was going on. So I explained it, and she looked at me and she said, Bonnie, you get to keep your head in this lifetime. You get to keep your head. That was actually helpful. I mean, it's kind of tongue-in-cheek, but it was actually helpful in terms of, I can separate myself from old reactions, There we go, Ruth Ann. There we go. Yep, I'm afraid of bears when I'm camping, and there was one inside the lodge on Monday. Yes, and that was an opportunity. How do I keep myself safe here, but how do I allow, sometimes it can be allowing the appreciation. There's also, many people are afraid of moose, rightfully so. They are big, and they can take out a lot of people and a whole lot of things, especially when they're mad. But to observe them is cool. It's like, wow, look at this creature. Look at this amazing creature. And yeah, we're infringing on a lot of their habitat. No wonder they show up uninvited. But to be respectful of, isn't this an amazing creature? Obviously, keep yourself safe. I remember at one point when I lived in Montana, there was a national park guy who got in trouble for punching out some guy who sat his kid on the back of a grizzly bear for a picture. Really, people? These are not farm animals. Even farm animals can kill you. But just the one way to help address the fear response is, can I see the beauty in this thing? I want to keep myself safe, but can I see the beauty in this thing? So public speaking, can you see the beauty in that? It's your opportunity. I've had many people who've been able to conquer their fear of public speaking because the mission they were serving was so important to them. They framed it as, they got their ego out of the way. Ego is that little fear part. They got the ego out of the way by saying, I'm talking about my purpose. I'm talking about this important thing. I'm serving this important thing. Therefore, I can talk about it. I can be up here. It's not about me. It's about this service. I'm in service of whatever it is that I'm talking about. That can sometimes help people get over the fear of public speaking. It's more important that I say what I'm here to say than to fear ridicule, rejection, etc. I just need to say this. Again, take a look at the category in which a lot of the fears fit. Many of them are about feeling humiliated, feeling ashamed, stirring conflict, etc., etc. It's all the emotional, psychological, spiritual stuff. It's not the physical risk and danger. There's some of that. But a lot of it is about, I'm going to be humiliated, I'm going to be shamed, I'm going to be afraid, etc. I am so enjoying these courses for the community organizing, because these people are not willing to be shamed. They're not willing to be shamed. They have a mission, they have a purpose, and they're going to stand for it regardless of how the people who aren't ready to listen fire back. It's like, nope, I've got something I need to say here, and I'm going to say it. And you can call me names, you can, denigrate me, you can do whatever, but I'm going to speak my truth. Yeah. Yes, our voice does matter. Very much so, Lucy. Very much so. So what's important enough to you, for all of you to speak up about, right? So that's our card for today. Psst, ahem, hey you. We can address these fears that limit us and keep us from doing the things we want to do at the level we want to do them. So stepping up, moving into faith instead of fear. So have an awesome day. We'll see you again tomorrow. Remember, you're capable of far more than you think you are. Bye-bye.